Episode 2 coming soon. The real choice begins. You haven't seen his true side yet. Stay TUND. My name is Minjai, and 6 months ago, I thought I understood my life. I was 26, living in a cramped studio apartment in Gangnam, surviving on instant ramyun and the occasional luxury of convenience store triangle kimbap. I worked as a freelance graphic designer, taking whatever clients I could find on freelancing apps, designing logos for startups that would probably fail and wedding invitations for couples I'd never meet. That's how I met him, Yi Hyun. He posted a job listing. Need designer for luxury watch brand launch. High budget. Serious inquiries only. The pay was 3 times my usual rate. I applied immediately. We met at a cafe in Cheongdam-dong, one of those places where a single cup of coffee costs more than my daily food budget. He arrived exactly on time, wearing a black cashmere sweater that probably cost more than my rent. His hair was styled perfectly, not a strand out of place. He had that effortless, wealthy look, clean, polished, like he'd never experienced a single inconvenience in his entire life. Minjai, he asked, extending his hand. Yes, that's me, I said, trying not to feel intimidated by how expensive everything about him seemed. He smiled. It was warm, genuine. Thank you for coming. I saw your portfolio. You have a very unique style. For the next hour, we discussed the project. He wanted something elegant but modern, minimalist but memorable. He spoke about design with surprising knowledge, asking questions that showed he actually cared about the details. Most clients just wanted something cool. Yi Hyun wanted art. I'll pay half up front, he said, sliding an envelope across the table. I opened it. Cash. Thick stacks of 50,000 won bills. I usually use bank transfers, I said carefully. I prefer cash, he said simply. Is that a problem? It should have been a red flag, but the money was real, and my rent was due in 3 days. No problem, I said. That's how it started. 1 project became 2. 2 became weekly meetings. He always paid in cash, always in person, always at expensive cafes or restaurants where I felt perpetually underdressed. He never let me pay for anything. You're doing me a favor, he'd say whenever I protested. Let me handle this. Somewhere between the 3rd and 7th meeting, it stopped being purely professional. He started asking personal questions. Do you have family in Seoul? Not really. My parents are in Busan. We don't talk much. Why not? I shrugged. They wanted me to be a doctor or lawyer. I wanted to draw. We agreed to disagree. He nodded thoughtfully. I understand complicated families. What about you? I asked. What does your family do? His expression shifted, just for a moment. Something flickered behind his eyes, not quite fear, but something close to it. Import-export business, he said vaguely. Nothing interesting. Another red flag I ignored. By the 4th month, we were dating. Or at least, I thought we were. He never called it that explicitly. We went to galleries, exclusive restaurants, private viewings at luxury boutiques. He bought me a handbag that cost more than I'd earned in the previous 3 months. When I protested, he simply said, I like seeing you happy. But there were rules I didn't understand. We never went to his apartment. Ever. When I asked why, he said he was between places. He never posted photos of us together. His phone was always face down. He had 2 phones, actually, one for me, one for work. What kind of import-export needs 2 phones? I joked once. He didn't laugh. The complicated kind. I was falling for him, despite the weirdness. Despite the feeling that I was seeing only a carefully curated version of Yi Hyun, not the real person underneath. He was kind, attentive, generous. He remembered everything I told him. He made me feel seen in a way no one had before. But he kept me at a distance. Emotionally, I could feel the wall between us. He'd pull me close, then disappear for days with vague excuses about business trips. He never said he loved me, never talked about the future. I told myself it was fine. I told myself I wasn't expecting anything serious. But late at night, alone in my studio apartment, I wondered who Yi Hyun really was. I was about to find out. It was a Thursday evening when everything changed. Yi Hyun and I were having dinner at a quiet restaurant in Itaewon, one of those places with private rooms and servers who appeared and disappeared like ghosts. We just finished our meal when he reached across the table and took my hand. "Minjai, I need to ask you something." My heart jumped. The way he said it sounded serious, too serious. "Okay," I said carefully. "My family is having a dinner this weekend. Nothing fancy, just a family gathering. I'd like you to come." I blinked. In 6 months, he'd never once mentioned introducing me to his family. I'd assumed we weren't at that level yet. "Really? Are you sure?" "Yes," he said, but something in his voice sounded off, like he was reciting lines from a script. "They want to meet you. They know about me." "Of course," he squeezed my hand. "I talk about you all the time." It should have made me happy. Instead, a strange unease settled in my stomach. "When is it?" "Saturday evening. I'll pick you up at 5. "Where do they live?" "Outside the city, about an hour's drive." He paused. "It's a big house. My family is traditional, just be yourself and everything will be fine." The way he said traditional made it sound like a warning. "Yi Hyun, is there something I should know? Something about your family?" He looked at me for a long moment. Then he smiled that perfect smile. "No, nothing you need to worry about. Just be polite, smile, and stay close to me. Okay." "Okay," I said, even though the unease was growing. That night, I barely slept. I kept replaying the conversation, analyzing his tone, his expressions. Something felt wrong, but I couldn't identify what. Maybe I was overthinking. Maybe this was just normal relationship anxiety about meeting the parents. Saturday arrived too quickly. I spent 3 hours getting ready, changing outfits 4 times before settling on a simple black dress. Elegant, but not too formal, conservative, but not boring. I wanted to make a good impression. Yi Hyun picked me up in a black sedan with tinted windows. Not his usual car. This one looked expensive and new, with leather interior that still smelled fresh from the factory. "New car?" I asked as I got in. "Borrowed from family," he said. "Mine's in the shop." Another vague answer. I was collecting them now, like red flags I couldn't bring myself to acknowledge. We drove north, away from Seoul's glittering skyline. The city gradually dissolved into suburbs, then into rural countryside. The roads became narrower, less populated. Streetlights disappeared. After about 40 minutes, Yi Hyun turned onto a private road marked by a simple stone pillar. No sign, no address, just a number carved in Hangul. "We're close," he said. His hands were tight on the steering wheel. He hadn't spoken much during the drive, and now I noticed a thin sheen of sweat on his forehead despite the car's air conditioning. "Yi Hyun, are you okay?" "Fine," he said quickly. "Just want tonight to go well." We rounded a curve and encountered the first checkpoint. A guard station appeared in the middle of the road, painted black, almost invisible in the darkness. 2 men in dark suits stepped into our headlights. They weren't security uniforms. These were expensive suits, tailored perfectly. But the bulges under their jackets were unmistakable. My breath caught. "Yi Hyun." "It's fine," he said, rolling down his window. One guard approached. He was young, maybe 30, with a scar along his jawline. He bent down to look into the car, and his eyes landed on Yi Hyun. His entire demeanor changed instantly. "Ah, second young master," the guard said, his voice carrying both respect and something else. "Pity. Welcome home. The chairman is expecting you." Second young master. Chairman. The words hung in the air like smoke. The guard's eyes shifted to me. His expression hardened. "Who is the guest?" "She's with me," Yi Hyun said, and I heard it now, the strain in his voice, the barely concealed fear. "Family dinner." The guard's face showed nothing. "Of course, please proceed." The gate opened, a massive steel barrier that looked designed to stop a tank, not just unauthorized visitors. We drove through, and I turned to Yi Hyun. "What was that? Why did he call you second young master? What does your family actually do?" Yi Hyun's jaw was clenched. Minjai, please, just trust me tonight. Stay close to me, don't ask too many questions, and everything will be fine. Yi Hyun, please. He'd never said please like that before, like he was begging. I looked ahead and saw it, the house. Except house was completely inadequate. It was an estate, a compound. A fortress disguised as a traditional Korean mansion. High walls surrounded everything. More guards patrolled the perimeter. Security cameras tracked our approach. Lights illuminated manicured gardens that looked like they required a full-time team to maintain. This wasn't wealth, this was power. We pulled into a circular driveway where at least 10 other expensive cars were parked. Mercedes, BMWs, even a Bentley. Men in dark suits opened our doors before we could do it ourselves. One of them bowed to Yi Hyun with that same mixture of respect and something darker. Welcome home, second young master. There it was again, second young master. Which meant there was a first. Yi Hyun took my hand, gripping it tightly. Stay with me, he whispered. Don't wander, don't talk to anyone unless I introduce you first. And whatever happens, don't. He stopped mid-sentence, his entire body tensed. I followed his gaze to the entrance of the house, where a figure stood backlit by the interior lights. I couldn't see the face yet, but I could see everyone's reaction. Every guard, every staff member, every person in the vicinity had subtly adjusted their posture. Spines straightened. Conversations stopped. Whoever stood in that doorway commanded absolute attention, without saying a word. Yi Hyun's grip on my hand became painful. He's here, he whispered, and for the first time since I'd known him, I heard genuine fear in his voice. My brother is here. The interior of the house was even more impressive than the exterior. Traditional Korean architecture mixed with modern luxury, high ceilings with exposed wooden beams, paper screen doors with reinforced frames, antique furniture worth more than my entire existence. But none of it felt warm. It felt like a museum or a mausoleum, beautiful and lifeless. Staff members, at least I thought they were staff members, though the bulges under their jackets suggested otherwise, moved with silent efficiency. Everyone wore black. Everyone watched me with varying degrees of suspicion and curiosity. I was clearly an anomaly here, an outsider who didn't belong. Yi Hyun guided me through a maze of corridors, his hand never leaving mine. We passed rooms I couldn't fully see, offices with closed doors, sitting rooms where men in expensive suits conducted quiet conversations that stopped when we walked by. I noticed everything was spotlessly clean, perfectly arranged. There was no clutter, no personality, no warmth. How many people live here? I whispered. Just family, Yi Hyun replied, and staff. It's huge for just a family. He didn't respond. We entered a large sitting room where about 15 people were gathered. The conversations were subdued, controlled. People sat in specific arrangements that seemed deliberately chosen. No one was drinking heavily. No one was laughing. It was the most formal family dinner I'd ever witnessed. Every head turned as we entered. An elderly woman in a burgundy hanbok sat in the most prominent position, clearly the matriarch. Her face was kind, but her eyes were sharp, assessing me instantly. Several middle-aged men in expensive suits occupied the surrounding seats, uncles, maybe, or business associates. A few younger people, probably cousins, sat on the periphery looking bored. Yi Hyun, the matriarch said, her voice warm but commanding. Come here. We approached, and Yi Hyun bowed deeply. I quickly followed his lead. Grandmother, this is Minjai, he said. Minjai, this is my grandmother, Madam Park. It's an honor to meet you, I said, bowing again. She studied me with eyes that missed nothing. A designer, yes. Yi Hyun speaks highly of your work. Thank you, ma'am. And you've been seeing my grandson for how long? About 6 months. I see. Her tone was neutral, impossible to read. How do you find him? It was a strange question. How do you find him? Not how is he, or what do you think of him? But how do you find him, like I was describing a lost object? He's very kind, I said carefully. Thoughtful. Something flickered in her expression. Amusement, sadness. Yes, she said softly. He is kind, perhaps too kind. Before I could process what that meant, one of the middle-aged men spoke up. The girl is pretty, he said in Korean, clearly assuming I couldn't understand. But she looks ordinary. What is the second young master thinking, bringing someone like this here? My face burned, but I kept my expression neutral. Yi Hyun's hand tightened on mine. She's my guest, he said firmly, switching to Korean. She's here because I want her here. Does the chairman know? Another man asked. The room went silent. Even I understood that question's weight. The chairman, the same title the guard had used, someone important, someone feared. He will tonight, Yi Hyun said, but his voice wavered. The matriarch, Madame Park, gestured toward empty seats. Sit, dinner will begin soon. We sat on a low couch near the periphery of the room, not quite excluded, but definitely not central. I could feel eyes on me constantly. People were evaluating, judging, calculating. I heard fragments of conversations in Korean. Who is she really? Does she know? The chairman won't approve. The second young master always does this. She's a liability. I kept my face neutral, pretending I didn't understand, but my heart was pounding. Yi Hyun sat rigid beside me, his usual smooth confidence completely gone. A woman in her 40s approached us, smiling warmly. Yi Hyun, dear nephew, who is your lovely friend? Aunt Miran, this is Minjai. Charming, she said, but her eyes were cold. Tell me, Minjai, what do your parents do? It was a test. I could feel it. My father works in construction. My mother is a nurse. Ah, hardworking people. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. And you're a designer, how? Creative. The word creative sounded like an insult. Yes, ma'am. You must be very talented to catch Yi Hyun's attention. He's usually so focused on business matters. She paused. Of course, his business is complicated. I'm sure he's explained. Aunt Miran, Yi Hyun started. I'm just making conversation, she said innocently. Then she leaned closer to me, her voice dropping. Word of advice, dear. In this family, it's important to know your place, to understand the hierarchy. Some positions are fixed, unchangeable. Do you understand? I didn't, but I nodded anyway. She patted my hand. Smart girl, enjoy the evening. As she walked away, I turned to Yi Hyun. What is happening? What kind of family is this? Minjai, please. No, I need to know. Who are these people? What do you actually do? Why is everyone acting like I'm some kind of threat or joke? He opened his mouth to answer, but the words never came. Because at that exact moment, the room changed. It was subtle at first, a shift in the air, a change in the quality of silence. People stopped talking mid-sentence. Bodies adjusted. Every person in that room turned slightly toward the entrance, like flowers turning toward the sun. I felt it before I saw it, a presence, heavy and undeniable. Footsteps, slow, measured, confident. Yi Hyun's hand gripped mine, so tightly I nearly gasped. He's coming, he whispered. Don't look directly at him, don't speak unless spoken to, stay quiet. Who? My brother. The footsteps grew louder, closer, echoing through the hallway with the inevitability of a death march. No one in the room moved. No one breathed. The air itself seemed to thicken, becoming heavy with anticipation and fear. I felt him before I saw him. It wasn't something I could explain rationally. It was primal, instinctive, the way prey animals sense a predator nearby. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. My skin prickled with goosebumps. Every survival instinct I possessed screamed at me to look down, make myself small, become invisible. Then he entered. The first thing I noticed was that he didn't hurry. Everyone else in this house moved with purpose, with urgency, with the awareness that time was valuable. He moved like time itself bent around him, like he had all the hours in the world, and the world would wait for him to use them. He was tall, taller than Yi Hyun by several inches. He wore a black suit that fit him perfectly, not a thread out of place. His hair was styled simply, pushed back from his face, revealing sharp features that were both beautiful and terrifying. High cheekbones, a strong jaw, eyes that were dark and cold and saw everything. But it wasn't his appearance that commanded the room. It was something else. An energy, an aura, the absolute certainty that this man was the most dangerous person in any space he occupied. He didn't greet anyone, didn't smile, didn't acknowledge the room full of people who were all desperately trying not to stare while simultaneously being unable to look away. He simply walked to the center of the room and stopped. Madam Park, the matriarch who'd seemed so powerful moments before, stood immediately and bowed her head. Youngwoo, welcome home. Youngwoo, the first young master, the chairman. Yi Hyan's older brother. Grandmother, he said, his voice low and smooth. It wasn't loud, but somehow it carried perfectly through the room. You look well. Thank you, she gestured to the room. Everyone is here. We were waiting for you to begin dinner. His eyes swept the room slowly, methodically. People visibly tensed as his gaze passed over them, then relaxed fractionally when it moved on. It was like being examined by a predator deciding whether you were worth eating. When his eyes reached me, they stopped. I forgot Yi Hyan's warning. I couldn't help it. I looked directly at him. It was a mistake. His eyes locked onto mine, and I felt it like a physical impact, a weight pressing down on my chest, stealing my breath. They were dark brown, almost black, and completely empty of warmth, but they weren't cold either. They were simply assessing, clinical, like I was a problem to be solved, a variable to be calculated. Time stretched. It couldn't have been more than 3 seconds, but it felt like an eternity. I couldn't look away. I was frozen, trapped in that gaze like a rabbit caught in headlights. Then he looked away, and I could breathe again. But the damage was done. He'd seen me, noticed me, marked me as something requiring attention. Youngwoo, Yi Hyan said, his voice higher than usual. I didn't know you were coming tonight. Youngwoo's eyes shifted to his younger brother. There was no affection there, no warmth, no acknowledgement of their relationship beyond the biological fact of it. Why wouldn't I come? He said simply. It's a family dinner. The subtext was clear. This is my house, my family, my domain. You don't get to be surprised by my presence. Yi Hyan swallowed audibly. Of course, I just meant we weren't sure of your schedule. I'm here now. Youngwoo's gaze flicked back to me briefly, then to Yi Hyan. I see you brought a guest. It wasn't a question. It was an observation that somehow felt like an accusation. Yes, Yi Hyan said. This is Minjai, she's. We've been seeing each other. I wanted her to meet the family. A muscle twitched in Youngwoo's jaw, the only sign of any emotion at all. How thoughtful, he said flatly. The temperature in the room dropped another 10 degrees. One of the uncles cleared his throat nervously. Perhaps we should move to the dining room. The food will be ready. Yes, Madam Park said quickly, sensing the tension. Let's eat. The room began to move, people standing and filing toward the dining area with obvious relief at the excuse to escape the pressure of Youngwoo's presence. But I noticed something. No one walked near him. Everyone gave him a wide berth, creating an invisible circle of space around him at all times. Yi Hyan pulled me up, his hand trembling slightly. Come on, stay close. As we started to walk, Youngwoo spoke again. Yi Hyan. We both froze. Everyone in the room froze. Youngwoo hadn't moved. He was still standing in the center of the room, hands in his pockets, expression neutral. But there was a command in that single word that couldn't be ignored. Yi Hyan turned slowly. Yes, Hyung. Youngwoo looked at me again. This time, the examination was longer, more thorough. I felt exposed, like he was seeing through my clothes, my skin, my skull, directly into my thoughts. Be careful, Youngwoo said quietly. Sometimes we bring home things that don't belong to us. The words were simple, but the meaning was clear. She doesn't belong here. Yi Hyan's face flushed with anger or shame. I couldn't tell which. She's my guest. She has every right to be here. Does she? Youngwoo tilted his head slightly. Have you asked her if she wants to be here? Have you told her what being here means? The question hung in the air like smoke. Youngwoo smiled then. the first expression I'd seen on his face. It wasn't warm. It was the smile of someone who knew a secret, who held all the cards, who was simply waiting for everyone else to realize how thoroughly they'd lost. "Enjoy your dinner, little brother," he said. "We'll talk later." Then he walked past us toward the dining room, and everyone exhaled. Yi Hyun was shaking. I'd never seen him like this, stripped of his confidence, reduced to something small and frightened. "Yi Hyun," I whispered. "What does he mean? What haven't you told me?" He looked at me, and his eyes were full of guilt and fear and something else. Resignation, maybe. The look of someone who knew he'd made a terrible mistake but couldn't undo it. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I thought I could protect you from this. I thought if I kept you separate from them, from him, it would be okay. But he knows now. He's seen you, and that changes everything." "Changes what? Who is he? What does your family actually do?" Yi Hyun opened his mouth, but Aunt Miran appeared beside us, her fake smile firmly in place. "Come along, you two. Don't keep the chairman waiting. He hates tardiness." She linked her arm through mine, a friendly gesture that felt like a prison guard escorting an inmate. As we walked toward the dining room, she leaned close and whispered, "A word of advice, dear. The chairman doesn't like his time wasted. If he asks you a question tonight, answer honestly. If he gives you an instruction, follow it exactly. And whatever you do, don't make the same mistake twice." "What mistake?" She smiled, looking at him like your equals. The dining room was enormous, a traditional Korean hall with a long, low table that could easily seat 30 people. Paper lanterns cast soft light over the scene, creating shadows that made everything feel both intimate and theatrical. Staff members in black moved silently along the perimeter, placing dishes with practiced precision. The seating arrangement was clearly pre-planned. Madam Park sat at the head of the table, the position of honor. Youngwoo sat immediately to her right, the power position. The uncles and aunts filled in the spaces according to some invisible hierarchy I didn't understand. The younger family members sat further down the table. Yi Hyun and I were directed to seats near the middle, not at the children's end, but definitely not near the power center. We were visible but not prominent, included but not important. Except for one detail that made my stomach drop. My seat was directly across from Youngwoo. I would be looking at him for the entire meal. Yi Hyun noticed it too, his face paled. "This is wrong, the seating arrangement." "Is perfect," Aunt Miran interrupted smoothly. "Sit, please, don't disrupt the balance." We sat. I kept my eyes down, studying the beautiful ceramic plate in front of me like it held the secrets of the universe. I could feel Youngwoo's presence across from me like heat from a fire, impossible to ignore, dangerous to acknowledge. The first course arrived, delicate appetizers arranged with artistic precision. Everyone began eating in silence. The only sounds were chopsticks against porcelain and the quiet rustle of clothing. No one spoke. No one laughed. It was the most oppressive meal I'd ever experienced. I picked at my food, my appetite completely gone. Yi Hyun sat rigid beside me, barely eating either. Under the table, his knee pressed against mine, the only comfort he could offer. "Tell me," Youngwoo's voice cut through the silence like a knife. "Minjai, was it?" Every head at the table turned toward me. I looked up reluctantly. He was watching me with that same clinical interest, like I was a specimen under a microscope. "Yes, sir," I managed. "Sir," he repeated, and something flickered in his eyes. Amusement. "How formal. Yi Hyun, you didn't tell her she could use my name." "I didn't think," Yi Hyun started. "No, you didn't." Youngwoo's gaze never left me. "What do you do, Minjai?" "I'm a graphic designer." "Freelance?" "Yes." "Successful?" The question felt like a trap. If I said yes, I was bragging. If I said no, I was admitting to failure. "I make enough to live on," I said carefully. "Honest," he said, nodding slightly. "That's refreshing. How did you meet my brother?" "Through work. He hired me for a design project." And the project became more. Heat rose to my face. "Yes." Youngwoo leaned back slightly, still watching me. Do you know what my brother does for work? I hesitated. Yi Hyan's knee pressed harder against mine, a warning. Import-export, I said. That's what he told me. And you believed him. I had no reason not to. Youngwoo smiled, that cold, knowing smile. That's the difference between you and me. I never believe anything without proof. One of the uncles laughed nervously. Youngwoo, don't interrogate the girl, she's a guest. Youngwoo's eyes flicked to the uncle. The laughter died instantly. I'm not interrogating, he said softly. I'm getting to know her. There's a difference. He looked back at me. This time his gaze was more intense, more penetrating. I felt exposed, vulnerable, like he could see every thought I'd ever had. Do you love him? He asked suddenly. The table went silent. Even the staff members along the walls seemed to freeze. I didn't know how to answer, did I? I cared about Yi Hyan, but love, I'd never let myself think that far ahead. It's okay, Youngwoo said. It's a difficult question. Let me ask an easier one, does he love you? I glanced at Yi Hyan. His face was pale, his jaw clenched. I don't know, I admitted. Honest again, Youngwoo said. You know what I think? I think my brother brought you here to prove something. To show everyone, to show me that he's capable of making his own decisions, that he's his own person. He paused. But the thing about proving something is that it requires an audience, and you, Minjai, are the prop in his performance. That's not true, Yi Hyan said, his voice shaking with anger. I brought her because I care about her, because I wanted her to meet our family. Did you, Youngwoo tilted his head, or did you want our family to meet her? To see that you could attract someone pure, someone outside this world, someone who doesn't know what we really are. Hyung, please. Have you told her? Youngwoo's voice remained calm, but there was an edge to it now. About who we are, what we do, the business that pays for your expensive lifestyle and your casual generosity. No, Yi Hyan admitted. Not yet. Not yet, Youngwoo repeated. When were you planning to, after she was too invested to leave, after you'd trapped her? He looked at me. Do you want to know, Minjai? Do you want to know what you've walked into? Part of me wanted to say no, wanted to stand up, leave this house, and never look back. But I needed to know. I'd come this far. Yes, I whispered. Youngwoo leaned forward, his eyes locked on mine. We're criminals, Minjai. My family controls most of the illegal trade in this region. Drugs, weapons, protection, gambling, you name it. We've been doing it for 3 generations. The mansion, the cars, the wealth you see here, it's all built on blood and fear. My grandfather killed for it. My father died for it. And now it's mine to protect. The words hit me like physical blows. I looked at Yi Hyan, hopping for denial, for some explanation that would make this less horrifying. He wouldn't meet my eyes. My brother, Youngwoo continued, likes to pretend he's different, that he's not part of this, that his hands are clean, but they're not. He benefits from everything we do. He spends money we earned through violence. He enjoys protection bought with fear. He's just as complicit as the rest of us, he's just better at lying about it. That's enough, Madam Park said sharply. Youngwoo, you're frightening the girl. Good, Youngwoo said, not looking away from me. She should be frightened. She should understand what she's become involved in. I couldn't breathe. The room was spinning. Everything I'd ignored, every red flag I'd dismissed, every strange moment I'd rationalized, it all made horrible, perfect sense now. I need to leave, I said, standing up shakily. I need to go home. Yi Hyan grabbed my wrist. Minjai, wait. Let her go, Youngwoo said. If she wants to leave, she should leave. But as I tried to pull away, Yi Hyan's grip tightened. There was desperation in his eyes now, and something else, fear. Not of me leaving, but of what would happen if I did. You can't leave, he said quietly. Not yet. Youngwoo won't let you, not until he's sure you won't talk. I looked at Youngwoo. He was watching this interaction with detached interest, like we were actors in a play he was enjoying. Is that true? I asked him. Am I a prisoner here? No, he said, voice calm like he was talking about weather. You're not a prisoner. My lungs finally pulled in air. Then he added, "Not yet." The table didn't react, but I felt it. Like everyone heard it as a joke, except the punchline was my life. Yi Hyun's hand shot out under the table, grabbing my wrist. His fingers were cold. "Hyung," he said, forcing a laugh that sounded like it hurt. "You're scaring her." Youngwoo's eyes didn't leave mine. "I'm clarifying," he replied. "It's better she understands early." Madam Park set her chopsticks down. The soft click sounded like a gavel. "Enough," she said. "We eat." The staff moved in with the next course, but it didn't feel like dinner anymore. It felt like an exam. And I was the paper. For a few minutes, no one spoke. I tried to eat, but the food tasted like nothing. Then Aunt Miran leaned forward, smiling. "Min Jai," she said warmly, like we were friends. "What do you think of our home?" It sounded harmless. It was not. "It's beautiful," I said carefully. "And the security," she continued. "Does it make you feel safe?" My eyes flicked to the men at the walls. Suits, earpieces, bulges under jackets. Safe wasn't the word. "It's impressive," I said. Youngwoo finally looked away from me and took a sip of tea. A man across the table laughed. "She's diplomatic." Another uncle, older, with a face like carved stone, said in Korean, "Diplomacy is what people use when they're hiding something." My face stayed blank. I kept pretending I didn't understand. But Yi Hyun knew I did. His knee pressed into mine under the table, a warning to stop reacting. Youngwoo spoke again, quiet, smooth. "Min Jai," he said, "do you have any siblings?" "No," I answered. "I'm an only child." "Good," he said. "Then you won't make the mistake of trusting the wrong one." The words landed like a blade, laid gently against my throat. My fingers trembled around my spoon. I forced myself to keep my posture steady, the way I did in client meetings when someone tried to underpay me. Yi Hyun's voice came out strained. "Hyung, please, you don't have to do this." Youngwoo tilted his head slightly. "Do what?" "Interrogate her," Yi Hyun said. Youngwoo's mouth curved into something that wasn't a smile. "This is not interrogation. This is evaluation." Madam Park's gaze sharpened, but she didn't stop him. That was when I realized something terrifying. This was Youngwoo going off script. This was the script. He leaned back in his chair. "Min Jai, you're a designer." "Yes." "What is the most important rule in design?" he asked. I blinked. The question was so normal it felt like a trap dressed as kindness. "Clarity," I answered. "If people don't understand, you failed." Youngwoo nodded slowly. "Good." Then he looked at Yi Hyun. "My brother is unclear," he said. "That is why people get hurt around him." Yi Hyun went pale. Aunt Miran smiled wider, as if enjoying a show. I couldn't take it anymore. "I want to leave," I said, standing. My voice shook, but I stood anyway. "I didn't know any of this. I'm not part of your family. I'm not part of your business. I just want to go home." The entire room froze. Then Youngwoo spoke calmly. "You may sit back down," he said. It wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. Yi Hyun grabbed my hand. "Min Jai, please," he whispered. "Just sit. We can talk after." I looked at Youngwoo. Am I allowed to leave or not? Youngwoo studied me for a long moment. Then he said, "After dessert." The answer made no sense. But it made perfect sense in one way. He was telling me this dinner would end when he decided it ended. And I would still be here until then. So I sat. And I hated myself for obeying. Dessert came out like a celebration. Fruit cut into perfect shapes, gold-rimmed plates, tea poured with ritual precision. Then Madam Park stood. Everyone stood with her immediately, like the room was wired to her movements. "Family tradition," she said in Korean, then repeated in English for me. "After dinner, we gather in the main hall for music. It keeps the family united." United, the word sounded like a threat. A string quartet began to play somewhere nearby, soft and elegant, like this was a charity gala instead of a crime dynasty dinner. Staff opened the doors to the main hall. The space was massive. Lanterns, polished wood floors, walls lined with framed photos of men with cold eyes and expensive suits. People who looked like they'd never been told no in their lives. Yi Hyun stayed glued to me. "I'm sorry," he kept whispering. "I didn't know he'd be here." "You didn't know," I hissed back. "It's his house." "It's not his," he said quickly, then swallowed. "Not officially, not yet." I stared at him. What does that mean? Before he could answer, Aunt Miran appeared. Her hand slid around my arm like we were besties. "Come," she said sweetly. "You should dance, it will show respect." "I don't want to dance," I said. Her nails pressed into my skin. "You do." Yi Hyun's jaw tightened. "Aunt, don't force her." Miran smiled at him. "Then control your situation. You brought her here." The quartet changed songs. A waltz. Yi Hyun turned to me, face tight. "Just one dance," he whispered. "Please, it'll keep them calm." Keep them calm. Like they were animals. He pulled me onto the floor. His hand went to my waist, and it didn't feel romantic anymore. It felt like ownership. As we danced, I felt eyes watching. Not just watching, measuring. I tried to focus on Yi Hyun's face, but I kept seeing that empty, terrifying calm in Youngwoo's stare. Then Yi Hyun leaned in, breath hot with panic. "Whatever happens," he whispered, "don't be alone with him." I swallowed. "Why?" His voice cracked. "Because he doesn't warn twice." The words barely left his mouth when the music shifted, like the air changed. People moved aside. A path opened through the crowd, without anyone being told. Youngwoo stepped onto the floor. Not to dance, just to exist in the center. And everyone adjusted around him, like gravity. His eyes found me instantly. Yi Hyun's grip tightened. He pulled me closer, dancing sharper, harder, like he was showing me off. "Stop," I whispered. "You're hurting me." "Sorry," he muttered, not slowing. "Just look happy, please." Look happy. I suddenly understood what I was. Not his girlfriend. Not his partner. A prop. A message. A challenge aimed at his brother. And across the room, Youngwoo watched like he'd been waiting for exactly this. The music cut. Not naturally, not like a song ending. It stopped like someone pulled the plug. A voice sliced through the hall. "Second young master." A guard stood near the entrance, respectful but tense. Yi Hyun froze mid-step, still holding me in the dance frame. He turned. "What?" The guard hesitated, eyes flicking to Youngwoo first, then back to Yi Hyun. "There's an issue at the front gate," he said. "Someone arrived without clearance." Murmurs spread through the room. Madam Park's expression didn't change, but the atmosphere sharpened. Youngwoo didn't move. He just said, "Who?" The guard swallowed. "A woman." That made the room tense in a different way. Yi Hyun's face drained of color. "No," he whispered. I looked up at him. "Who is it?" He didn't answer. The guard spoke again, quieter now. "She says she's here for the second young master. She says she's carrying his child." Silence hit like a gunshot. My stomach dropped. I felt it like cold water poured down my spine. Yi Hyun's grip slipped off my waist. I stumbled back half a step, staring at him. "What?" I whispered. His mouth opened, but nothing came out. Aunt Miran let out a soft, satisfied hum, like she'd been waiting for this episode to start. Youngwoo's gaze slid to Yi Hyun. And for the first time, I saw emotion. Not anger. Not surprise. Disgust. "So," Youngwoo said, voice quiet, deadly, "this is what you've been doing while pretending you wanted a clean life." Yi Hyun shook his head fast. "Hyung, it's not like that." "Then explain," Youngwoo replied. "To her." His eyes flicked to me. I felt everyone watching, waiting for my reaction. My throat tightened so hard I could barely speak. "Yi Hyun," I said, voice shaking, "is it true?" He finally looked at me, and in his eyes was something worse than guilt. Fear. Not fear of losing me. Fear of what his brother would do. I can explain, he whispered. I stepped back from him. The room spun, and in that spinning chaos, I realized something else. This wasn't random. This was a setup. Because the moment the guard said it, Aunt Miran smiled like she already knew. Like the family had planned this reveal. Like they were stripping Yi Hyan in front of me to see what I'd do. To see if I'd break. Or if I'd become useful. I turned away from Yi Hyan, needing air, needing space, needing anything. I pushed through the crowd toward the side corridor. No one stopped me. Which was strange. Because earlier, I couldn't even stand up from the table without permission. I made it to a quiet hallway, heart hammering. I pressed my palms against the wall, trying to breathe. Then I heard footsteps. Slow, measured. Not Yi Hyan. My entire body stiffened. I didn't want to turn around. But I did. Youngwoo stood there. Close enough that the air felt tight. How does it feel, he asked softly, to realize you were never the only one? I swallowed. I don't want to talk to you. You do, he replied calmly, because I'm the only person in this house who will tell you the truth. My hands curled into fists. I'm leaving, I said. He stepped closer, blocking the hallway without touching me. You can't, he said. My breath caught, so I am a prisoner. No, he said, not a prisoner. He leaned in slightly, voice dropping. Collateral. The word hit me like a slap. I tried to step around him. He didn't move. Listen, he said, low and sharp. My brother is weak. He wants love the way children want candy. Sweet, easy, without understanding the cost. I glared at him, and you understand the cost. His eyes locked onto mine. I am the cost, he said. My pulse spiked. He reached out and without warning, took my wrist. Not gentle. Not rough. Controlled. He lifted my hand slightly, like he was inspecting something valuable. Then his gaze flicked to the small bruise forming on my waist, where Yi Hyan had held me too tightly. His jaw tightened. You're already being used, he said. You just didn't notice. I yanked my hand back. Why are you telling me this? His eyes went colder. Because the woman at the gate is not the problem, he said. She's the distraction. What does that mean? He stepped closer, voice so low it felt like a secret poured into my ear. My brother didn't bring you here to introduce you, he whispered. He brought you here to hide behind you. My blood went cold. Hiding from what? Youngwoo's gaze sharpened. From the people he owes, he said. From the deal he made, from the mistake he can't fix. I stared at him. You're lying. He didn't blink. I don't lie, he said. I execute. My throat tightened. He leaned in, mouth near my ear, and his voice turned into something dangerous, intimate, final. You danced with the wrong brother, he whispered. And if you don't learn the difference before midnight, you'll be dead by morning. I froze. What? I breathed. He pulled back, eyes burning into mine. My brother plays at power, he said. He spends it, he wastes it, he borrows it like it belongs to him. Then he stepped even closer, and his voice dropped into something that wasn't loud but felt absolute. I am power. A chill ran through me. I wanted to move, but my body wouldn't. Then he did something that broke my brain. He reached past me to the wall and tapped a hidden panel. A small camera lens blinked, then went dark. He looked back at me. They've been watching you, he said quietly, every second since you arrived. My stomach dropped. Who? I whispered. His eyes flicked toward the main hall. Everyone, he said, but especially the ones who are arriving tonight. My breath came out shaky. Arriving. He nodded once. Your test isn't dinner, he said. It's what happens after. I opened my mouth to ask what he meant. But before I could, A scream echoed from the direction of the gate. A woman's scream, sharp and terrified. Then shouting. Then footsteps running. Yongwoo's head tilted slightly, like he was listening to a song he recognized. "Right on time," he murmured. I grabbed his sleeve, panic flooding me. "What's happening?" He looked down at my hand on him, then back into my eyes. And for the first time, his voice softened by half a degree. "Stay close," he said. "If you run toward my brother, you die." Then he turned and started walking toward the chaos. I stumbled after him, trembling, because I suddenly understood the real problem. The woman at the gate wasn't here for Yi Hyan. She was bait. And whatever was coming next was not family drama. It was war. Episode 2 coming soon. The real choice begins. You haven't seen his true side yet. Stay tuned.